welcome to the Red Leaf Card, your home for Canadian soccer news and views. My name is Jacob. Today we're going to be talking about the Canadian Championship Finals. CS-Saint Laurent denies expansion for the Canadian Premier League. Toronto FC playoff spots, and also the Canadian Premier League, who will be taking that fifth spot. But first, here's your fixtures rundown. New York Red Bulls defeats Toronto FC 4-1. Vancouver Whitecaps gets defeated by Seattle Sounders 3-0. Club de Foot Montreal defeats Atlanta United 2-1. So, Canadian Championship Finals, as known, a three-peat of the Vancouver Whitecaps, and a lot of it goes well for it, and a lot of credit has to go to the Vancouver Whitecaps, and lo and behold, they get the seat for the CONCACAF Champions Cup for 2025, and a lot of it, we're going to say Vancouver Whitecaps were going to be the Canadian Championship winners for this, and a lot of that match shows that Toronto FC had the chance to win the Canadian Championship, and lo and behold, a lot of fans of Toronto FC say that, Bernardeschi taking that PK shouldn't have went to Bernardeschi because he actually was not good at PKs. He never actually made any PKs go in the net, and he's really not that good. So it does question why Lorenzo Insigne did not take the PK, or any other players from Toronto FC take that PK. So a lot of fans really were bummed out that Toronto FC didn't win. So, but a lot of fans out there who guessed that Vancouver Whitecaps were going to win, an easy win for them to make a three-peat and probably see Vancouver Whitecaps in the next Canadian Championship, probably could take that. And they will be the favors coming in for 2025 of the Canadian Championship coming in. But a lot of fans out there have to give credit to Vancouver Whitecaps. And there were some times in the Canadian Championship, you would say Forge FC probably were the favors to come into the finals when it was the first leg of Forge FC versus Toronto FC. A lot of fans had to give credit to Forge FC versus Toronto FC in the Canadian Championship, but Toronto FC proved whatsoever, you win by away goals in the second leg, but a lot of fans still say that Forge FC should have went to the finals. But to be honest, that matchup of Forge FC versus Toronto FC probably was the greatest game I've seen. But that matchup in the finals of Toronto FC and the Vancouver Whitecaps was the worst finals I've ever watched. In my opinion, you have one side of the seats emptied. You have some seats that are emptied, and you have some of the fans not really showing its best. But look, some of the fans would say, Well, look, it's that season that kids are at school, and usually we take kids to see games and stuff like that. Well, I get it, but you're not showing your best of being supportive of the sport at all ages. You can't be this group and say it's for the next generation and all of it has to go with for all this say it's for the youth, for the sports, and you're just saying, oh, you don't want to be involved, you don't want to impact the sport at your kind of age. It's for everybody to be involved. That's what the sport is. It's for everybody. And that has to do all of it. And I really am really kind of, you would say, questioned why does everybody have to say these kind of things that, oh, it's for the youth, it's all for that. And but you have to know it's also for your age as well. It's for adults, it's for teenagers, it's for the elderly, it's for those. But you're not really showing that you care that much about Canada soccer in the Canadian Championship finals. And that's not what Vancouver Whitecaps fans showed for this year's Canadian Championship with 12,000 fans at BC Place. And so I know that a lot of fans are going to just say those kind of things, say, well, that's not really, you want to insult the fans because we just beat you. We just beat you at your own game. Well, I'm not blaming your team of winning the championship. I'm not blaming my team that they lost because I'm not there to support. I'm supporting Canada soccer. That's what I'm doing. I'm not there. If it was Forge FC, if it was Pacific FC, if it was any team out there, like a League One Canada team, and you said, oh, we lost to a third tier team, Vancouver Whitecaps suck. And I'm like, well, yeah, you didn't do well. That's my opinion. That's what I would say. I would basically say all things why that you actually didn't do well. And this is something fans need to know. But as noticed, Vancouver Whitecaps qualifies to the CONCACAF Champions Cup for 2025, and I have to give credit to it. They've done the three-peats. It's their second team with their coach of doing the three-peats alongside with Greg Vanney of Toronto FC. So hats off to Vancouver Whitecaps of winning the Canadian Championship and moving on to the 2025 CONCACAF Champions Cup and see what happens. And as noticed, a lot of things happening with Toronto FC. They're actually not doing well in the Major League Soccer. They're losing games. Lorenzo Insigne is now being blamed on, and it's showing its true colors that Lorenzo Insigne, Bernardeschi are not the players that Toronto FC fans want. They are actually blaming on them. Now, they have one more match. They have actually one more match, and it's Inter Miami, which is Lionel Messi, Luis Suarez. You have so many big name players in Inter Miami, and figuring out that you have one more job to do is to actually make it to the playoffs. And look at it. Montreal, Club de Foot Montreal is in there in the playoff round, in the play-in round. And if Toronto FC does really well to actually win against Inter Miami, which probably a lot of people would say it's not going to happen because Lionel Messi is going to be in town. So there's going to be big problems coming in. And I would say Luis Suarez is going to be the ones who are going to be scoring. Lionel Messi, probably the one who's going to be playmaking in Inter Miami. And a lot of that is going to question a lot. So is it rather Toronto FC not make the playoffs or make the playoffs for this season? And that's going to be a lot of questions going around from the fans if they're actually worthy to going. But a lot of questions will go on for this upcoming match. But who knows of Toronto FC? Because Toronto FC will try to do some rebuilding, probably will not happen. And let's see how it goes for the next season. So Toronto going on. Canadian Premier League is already having their 4 teams clinch for their playoff spots, but there is one more team to taking that 5th spot. Right now, Pacific FC is in 5th spot. Vancouver FC is in 6th. Valor FC is in 7th. And Halifax Wanderers are in 8th spots. And a lot of people are saying that Valor FC could take that 5th spot, but we just have to wait until the ending of the season and seeing who will take that 5th spot. And for me, I would say probably Pacific FC or probably Valor FC. But who knows how the Canadian Premier League goes in the ending of the season, and see who will be those 5 teams. And we all know York United has clinched, Calgary FC has clinched, Atletico Ottawa has clinched, Forge FC has clinched, and they have one more win to do to clinching the regular season. And there's already been other news that there's been some sources coming around League One Quebec team, CS-Saint Laurent, coming into the Canadian Premier League, and the Canadian Premier League and also CS-Saint Laurent had to make a statement saying these talks of an expansion team are actually false. We had no ties of actually talking for an expansion team, and CS-Saint Laurent never had any investors. So a lot of people out there who are writing these sources of CS-Saint Laurent probably are going to get a lot of talks about why would you write these kind of stories of CS-Saint Laurent going to the Canadian Premier League, and a lot of people out there always say those, but it's just source. It's just source, probably to hype up the expansion talks, and well, that didn't help. That didn't actually help for Canadian Premier League fans out there, because some of them actually blamed the Canadian Premier League. Some of them actually accused some of the people who wrote these kind of stories of lying. And so a lot of people out there are going to say, hey, you know what? You're falsely making these stories up. And I think that a lot of people are going to say these kind of things. But look, there's also an expansion team in the Canadian Premier League we've not heard of still, and it's Windsor. David Klaniken, who was a former commissioner back then, still going out there trying to make an expansion team for the Canadian Premier League, and still probably we might see it in 2026, and still no words of the team yet. So I would say maybe give some time, but we are almost there to seeing that the Canadian Premier League coming into the playoffs and seeing who will be the North Star Cup champs. And that's full time of the Red Leaf Card. I'm your host, Jacob, subbing out.